This is Kathryn Getsky, host of the Hope Matrix podcast. We are here to share science, stories, and strategies for how to hope. I'm the Chief Hope Officer of the Shine Hope Company, and Shine is the mnemonic for how we teach hope. So when we talk about hope, we talk about how we use stress skills, happiness habits, inspired actions, nourishing networks, and eliminating challenges, which are our thinking patterns that get in the way of our ability to hope. Hope is a skill. You can measure hope, you can teach hope, and you can start practicing skills to activate higher hope in your life today. And on this Hope Matrix podcast, we aim to bring in guests, experts in science, people with stories, and those that have strategies for activating hope in your life. Well, hello, listeners. Welcome to the Hope Matrix podcast. Today, I am delighted to have as a guest Dr. Angela Lorbeck. Dr. Angela comes from Chicago. She hails from Chicago, or she's in Chicago now. That's where we met. I was so lucky to have met her through, a colleague of a friend of a colleague, I guess. Really, Augusto Miravalli, is that correct? We met through Rush, doing some work with his son. And Angela reached out to me, and I feel like we're just soul sisters. We've become fast friends. She said, I love the work that you're doing on hope, and I've actually been practicing hope in medicine for many years, so I want to connect. So I'm really grateful to have you here, get you right on the show, talking about who you are, your work, kind of your own story of hope, which is, quite impressive. And really grateful to have you here. So how are you doing today, first off?
Well, number one, Kathryn, thank you so much for this wonderful opportunity. I feel like we are absolutely, this connection is just so fantastic. So thank you, number one, for inviting me to be on your wonderful podcast. I do totally love what you are doing in this world, and an honor to just to be here today. So I'm doing good. I'm doing good. I thought that it was Friday and it's actually Tuesday, but that's okay.
That's awesome. Yes,
I
love
know.
that. No, that's so funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. I know. I mean, it's rare that you find people that are in medicine that really know hope science and are practicing kind of what we're talking about and what I've been studying. So it was amazing to see, and so great of you to reach out and connect. And, I've been wanting female colleagues that are strong, kind of, women in Chicago. So thank you for reaching out. That's really great. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Yep, absolutely. I love it.
Yeah, so why don't we start by just letting our listeners hear just a little bit more about your background? So you're in integrative medicine. Can you maybe just share more about what you went to school for, what you're studying, what you've been practicing?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I've been, as you mentioned, I've been with Rush University Medical Center for the past 22 years. I joined them in November of 2002. And for the past 17 years, I have specialized in the area specifically of integrative oncology. And so what that means is they are kind of science-based practices, mind-body medicine practices that help our patients they help patients heal as from the moment of diagnosis through survivorship and end of life care. And it really helps patients, heal. And as you mentioned, it provides patients with a sense of hope as they navigate their journey with cancer. My educational background is that I have a master's in public health, a master's in Chinese medicine, and a doctorate in Chinese medicine. And I truly feel that I truly feel like I'm doing my life's work. I truly feel like being able to work with people and helping people heal during during a time in their life that is so challenging and sometimes so frightening and uncertain, when they might be experiencing a lot of sense of hopelessness and despair, and to have just a tiny kind of role, as a collaborative, as part of a collaborative team to help people, put one foot in front of the next to experience hope and to experience change and healing is my greatest life's work and greatest passion.
Yeah.
So,
And an incredible gift, obviously. I mean,
oh,
so many doctors don't look at, their patients that way in terms of what is the next kind of thing we're going to do or how are we going to move forward. I know, you and I talked about my mentor, Dr. Balfour, worked for
mm,
Joseph Murray, who was, a Nobel Prize winning physicist and did the first human transplant. And he said how much, these patients were under really challenging circumstances. And it was so important to think about what's the next thing we're going to do. And that's really what hope is. And to me, it sounds like you did that and do that with your patients. Yeah, cancer, super frightening journey. And I've talked to some folks on this who have gone through cancer
mm.
treatments and just how scary navigating all of it is.
Yeah, truly.
Can you what does Chinese medicine mean? Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's
I
a
mean,
wonderful. Totally, yeah.
yeah,
So it is a practice that is thousands of years old. It originated in China, and it's essentially practices like, acupuncture and herbs and qigong, which is a movement meditation that really taps into the body's ability to help itself heal. And so acupuncture specifically is the gentle insertion of sterile needles into the skin at various acupuncture points, to help the body, in its to heal.
yeah,
And so it can help offset, the side effects of chemotherapy and radiation, and help people heal from surgeries. It can help offset the awful side effects of cancer treatment. And so really that's why the majority of people come to see me, is because, they're experiencing a lot of different symptoms, and a lot of times there are either not medications to treat the side effects, or they don't want to take additional medications to address the side effects because of the potential side effects of those medications. And so yeah, so Chinese medicine is an ancient practice that is used now in modern times, in academic medical centers, across the world. There's a lot of growing there a growing body of research to support its safety and efficacy.
yeah. Can you tell me a little bit? I mean, you don't have to get too detailed, but I know we talked about this over coffee a bit. How does acupuncture work? I mean, you
It's
know,
a great.
yeah, and I'll tell you because this summer I had a pickleball injury and I got
Mm,
my shoulder and I have seen an acupuncture, someone that does acupuncture in
mhm.
Chicago, and I pulled something and I went to see him and he, needled me and it was like it healed. I mean, I left and I had no,
Wow.
and I'm like, what is happening? How is this working? I'm just
Well,
curious.
number one, I'm sorry to hear about the injury. It's pretty common that people unfortunately get injured during such a fun game, but I'm also glad that you had such a positive, and it seemed like a quick response.
Yeah.
So that's wonderful. Yeah, the question is very common. People don't often understand how it works. They often ask me, geez, Dr. Lorbeck, is there medication in the needles? Like, how does this even
I
work? And
know.
so, yeah. So what's really cool is the way that I describe it is, so the needles are really, they're hair thin, they're really tiny, they're very flexible. And after I do a really thorough intake with someone, in my mind, I'm based on the information that's being shared from the patient, I'm coming up with what's called like an acupuncture prescription or an acupuncture protocol. And it's typically between 4 to sometimes up to 44 acupuncture needles that are going to be placed in the body. And so the acupuncture points are located from the top of the head to the bottom of the feet, front of the body, side of the body, back of the body. There's hundreds and hundreds of acupuncture points on the body to be able to be able to access. And so once I've washed my hands and gloved up and prepped the areas with alcohol prep pads, and the patient is safely and and comfortable on the treatment table, um, I then begin to insert the needles. And so when the needle gets inserted into the skin, there is this kind of interaction with what's called ANC afferent fibers inside the muscle. And the ANC afferent fibers send this really cool cascade of communication through our central nervous system, which means that there's a communication up the spine and into the brain. And so the brain is actually releasing a really cool bubble bath of all of these neurohormones. So things like our natural, what are called our natural endogenous opioids, which is basically like our own pain blocking mechanism, is being released. Acupuncture releases serotonin. So serotonin is the hormone that when you are playing pickleball or with your family or doing something fun with friends, right? That's kind of like the relaxation kind of feel good hormone. So that's coursing throughout the body. And so a lot of times when people are done with their acupuncture treatment, they're like, whoa, why do I feel a little bit like, I just feel so relaxed. I feel like I just took an hour nap. And that's because of the serotonin. The other cool thing about acupuncture is that we know that it helps to reduce inflammation in the body. And we know that whether it's for cancer or any sort of acute or chronic illness, that reducing inflammation is really important for our health. We know that also acupuncture helps to boost the immune system. And all of us, excuse me, know, speaking of the immune system, just getting over COVID myself.
Oh no.
Um, I know. And so speaking of that, so acupuncture does a lot of really interesting things. And so, yeah, after the needles are placed, people will lay on the table for, between 20 and 50 minutes, depending on what I'm doing. And I often will, because I'm also a mindfulness educator, for people who are interested, I'll often like walk them through a guided like mindful breathing practice or something to focus on, to kind of enhance the treatment. So, and then at the end of the half an hour, I come in, wash my hands, glove up, remove the needles, and answer any questions. And people kind of float on out of the treatment room
Wow.
until our next visit.
That's amazing. I had no idea that, I mean, it makes sense, but the stress hormones. Do you know anything about cortisol? Have you read any research? Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm sure.
yes,
That's
yes.
amazing. I mean, does it
Yeah,
reduce cortisol or, I mean, does it help? Yeah.
1000%. I mean, it kicks in the parasympathetic nervous system. So
Yeah.
it turns down, right, that fight or flight
Yeah.
response, which is when
Oh,
cortisol and all of those things are flying all
yeah.
over the place to
Norepinephrine.
make us feel.
Yeah.
And then yeah, just be and I just love it. I always share with people, and I think I shared this with you when we got together, people love learning that whether it's acupuncture or mindfulness or other practices, that these things, these integrative therapies, similar to hope, right, th- tap into our body's ability to help itself heal,
Yes. Yes.
right?
I know. Yeah. It's
So
amazing.
powerful, so
So
powerful.
powerful. Yeah, and
Yeah,
produces our happy hormones,
that's
the
right.
S and the H, so that's amazing. I know,
Yeah.
it's incredible. We take these pills for everything and we don't understand how powerful our body is for being able to produce them ourselves in healthy ways without kind of those side effects. And so that's, I've been trying to
Ye-
figure out what are those ways. So it's interesting that acupuncture is both that kind of stress
mm,
skill and it's kind of a two-in-one happiness habit.
yes.
Really. That's
Yes, it
amazing.
really is.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think to your point, I mean, not only does acupuncture help to course those happiness hormones, right? But as people begin to experience the benefits of acupuncture, and I don't want to make a blanket statement to say that it's going to be guaranteed that if you have acupuncture or if you do something like meditation, that it's going to be helpful for every single person in
Right,
every single
right.
situation.
Yes.
However, um, but as a result of people experiencing the benefits of acupuncture or other therapies, that then begets happiness, right? And begets
Yeah. Oh,
hope.
yeah,
And
for
so
sure.
there's just
Yeah.
this like
Yes.
cascade of wonderful things that can happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, you have to believe that it's going to have a positive effect. So if you go in there, I mean, based on the nocebo effect, if you go in there believing that you're going to have negative side effects, it's going to be bad for you, it's going to be hard on you, then, 50% of the people will actually have that experience. So I think your attitude going into it is also equally important.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
yeah, and belief in it. What are the, I mean, I was taking some Chinese herbs. What are they? I mean, he just was like, here, take I'm like,
Oh,
I don't know what they are, but
yeah. I'm
they,
there's thousands of herbs that are kind of related to Chinese medicine, and they're, you know, a lot of them are roots. A lot of them are, things from nature,
mm,
that when kind of certain herbs are put together in like a, kind of a prescription, that they
yeah,
all kind of work together. So similar to an acupuncture protocol, I'm putting together a certain prescription of acupuncture points so that they kind of coordinate and work with one another. That's what herbs are doing as well.
got it.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Very cool. Wow, what an interesting field to be in. Really incredible. It seems so hard to learn. Was it really? I mean,
Oh my gosh.
I
Yeah.
can't even
It
imagine.
was so hard. I wanted to, so at the time when I was doing the program, Catherine, the master's program was 4 years of training. And I wanted to quit every single quarter. I'm like, that's it. I'm done.
I
I am
can
not doing
imagine.
this darn thing. I can't do it. I don't have it in me.
Oh
You
my
know,
God.
and at the time I was in a relationship, and the person that I was dating was like, yes, you are doing this. You have put me through, you know, HE like, and back, and you are doing this. And it
Right.
was just the support I needed to make it
Oh my
through. So, and of
gosh.
course the
Yeah.
cohort that you're with, right? I mean, everybody's
Right.
going through the same thing. And so you just rally and you
Mhm.
dig down deep and into your strengths. But it was
Yeah.
so hard. It was so
Yeah.
hard. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's everything we know about hope. You need at least one person to keep you accountable for your goals, and you need to check in with them regularly. So, I'm
Yeah.
sure the cohort and the partner helped at the time.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
awesome. I mean, that's how
Yeah.
I feel about hope every day. The work
Oh,
I'm doing on hope. It's so challenging, but
yes.
yeah, the team, the people I have, the support, it's yeah, hard things that we want to do are hard work and make us dig deep into our
Dig deep.
reserves.
But isn't it worth it though? I mean, just think
Yeah.
of the impact you're making on this
Mm,
world.
yeah,
Some
well,
incredible.
you too. You too.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, and you have a pretty incredible story. First, before we go to that, one thing just in integrative medicine in general,
Hmm.
do you think it's a more proactive kind of preventative approach to health? I mean,
Oh, 1000%.
yeah,
It can be very preventative, um, to kind of help prevent inflammation and help to boost the immune system and help with, right, the everyday stressors. But, unfortunately, in the United States, people don't necessarily use it from a preventative perspective.
yeah,
So not necessarily proactively, but when things are happening in someone's life, that's when they typically, or
okay,
people will typically seek out someone, in integrative medicine.
yeah.
Um,
I mean, is there a role for being proactive about getting acupuncture regularly or doing this before you are sick with something?
oh, yeah, yep, 1000%. And the thing about acupuncture, it's not like you have to go. every week for the rest of your life. I mean, it's the kind of thing that a treatment, a course of treatment, meaning once a week for probably maybe 4 or 6 weeks, is what we see in the scientific literature, and also what I've seen clinically be helpful. And so you do a course of treatment, and then you can take a little bit of a break, because what's really cool about acupuncture, it has a cumulative effect. And so in the scientific literature, there's evidence to suggest that there's a buildup of the treatment that can last between 3 and 12 months.
Wow.
So yeah,
Yeah.
and the other thing too, it's like it's important. I mean, like, to also be doing things that can also help from a preventative perspective. So meditating, having social connections, helping with your cultivating, practices that help to offset stress, doing things that, help you feel happy and in the flow, and exercise and out in nature. So it's not like, do acupuncture and then you get to,
Do
you get
whatever.
a pass to do
Right.
whatever. I mean,
Yeah.
it really is like,
Yeah.
maintaining health is,
Yeah.
you have to be active. You have to be
Yeah.
proactive. Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's everything we teach in Hope. And I kind of bring that up because I feel like so much medicine is dealing with things at time of crisis when you have a
Mm,
problem and we're just
mm,
not thinking of, being healthy up front or doing things preventative in nature and, proactive in nature to take care of our health so we don't wind up, stress is the cause of so many, I believe, diseases and, literature supports that. And just not managing our stress in healthy ways, and just waiting
yeah.
until we're in crisis to deal with it. And so, just wondering kind of, yeah, it seems to me it's a healthy thing to do as part of what we call shining, for life and for hope. But
Yes. And I was listening to one of your most recent podcasts, and as you were talking with the person that you were interviewing, and kind of thinking about and being excited about this conversation, and what you're also sharing right now makes me remember that from a proactive perspective, like, as it relates to like mindfulness meditation, I love teaching people, evidence-based, science-based tools and practices to help them with stress. And one of the ways is through mindfulness, through mindfulness practices. And people will often say, should I wait to do this practice until wait until I'm in a stressful situation to do this? No, don't wait.
exactly, don't.
You've got to build those
I
muscles, right?
know.
Like you can't just go do the Chicago Marathon without the training that
I
builds, right? To
know.
build that. And so, to your point, Catherine, yes, it is a daily practice. It is a daily, so that when crisis occurs, boy, you have the tools to be able to support you. Not that it's going to make that situation go away, but
Right.
you're gonna get through it,
Yeah.
with a lot more resilience.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, I know that to be true for sure. I mean, what used to upset me for days or weeks or months, now I can move through it, feel the emotion, process it, be with it, experience it, release it, and kind of move on to the next, Doesn't,
Yeah.
it's
So
just,
important.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And I
absolutely.
don't think people realize, like, this is, my field, and so I'm kind of I've lived in
Yeah.
this integrative medicine box for such a long time, and people just don't realize, again, going back to that, they have this incredible power within, and it
I
just takes
know.
learning and practicing. So it's fantastic that you have cultivated that practice for yourself.
Yes. And anyone at any age, anywhere can learn it. That's too, and
Yes.
and so much of what we can learn is free, isn't things that, they're not all things that we have to pay for. So
Yeah.
equally kind of important, I think.
Mhm.
So I woke up today all fired up and grateful that we were having this conversation because of another shooting. And,
Oh, I know.
you know, and I just am like so infuriated. Just how as a society we're still waiting until things are at crisis to kind of address them, and we're not getting to root causes of problems, and we're not investing in and focusing on solutions that we know cause so much of what's happening. um and I just, and because I think that's so true in medicine as well, like I wonder
Mhm.
how that influenced your journey in medicine and what you decided. And I mean, I look at every case and I look at hopelessness. I mean, to me, it's so clear
Mm,
to me that there's just all of these youth. I mean, they feel such senses of despair and such a sense of
mm,
helplessness to do
mm.
anything about it. And I'm like, we're not teaching them what this is. Like, we need to teach everyone everywhere, but especially youth, how to manage
Yes.
hopelessness in healthier ways, how to identify it, normalize the
Mm.
conversation around it, and how to talk about managing it in healthier ways. And, again, I know that you see that and have seen that probably so much in medicine.
Oh,
See it so much in society.
yeah, yeah. So, number one, I am right there with you with how sick I am about the shooting. It happened in my hometown. My
Oh,
brother
that's
is on
right.
the police force there, and it just, of course, every shooting is awful in and of
Yeah.
itself. And when it hits this close to home, it just is just extra. So you're right. I mean, these kids need to, every single child in every single school and all of the staff and, just everybody needs to be able to learn how to practice these skills so that they aren't feeling so hopeless and can experience greater hope and not go to these extreme measures of their life
Mm. Yeah,
that are so devastating.
I
And
know.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
despair is an awful thing to experience. And you're right. I mean, I that's really, I feel like one of the reasons why people come to see me is because it's often like they often say, I'm seeing you because this is my last ditch effort. I've
Right.
tried everything
Yeah.
and nothing else is helping me. And cancer, like any other chronic condition, impacts every single aspect of your personal and your professional life. Everything is turned on its head. And but when you can, similar to hope, when something like acupuncture helps to move the needle towards making a difference in someone's life. And I'm not saying, this magical, I'm not saying that, acupuncture is like this magical way of addressing symptoms, but people begin to see a shift, right? And as it relates, let's just say, I mean, the majority of people who come to see me are being referred or come to see me for pain management because physical pain impacts, right, everything that you do. And so when patients start to experience, you know uh, uh you know less intense pain, and maybe the duration is less, and which then they begin to start to feel like themselves a little bit more, and they're a little bit more active. That's when the
Hmm.
hope, right,
Yeah.
begins to rise. And then there's like this ripple effect
Yeah.
that is so beautiful to witness. But when people are sitting down with me for the first time, I mean, I do see and
Yeah.
experience and hear such despair.
Yeah. Yeah. And that helplessness along with it, that they can't do anything about it. Like that's the
Yes.
combination that is so horrible. And so when we feel that sadness, that anger, that pain, and then we are powerless, we can't do anything. Like that is like to me the magic combo that leads to all of, the things we don't want to see in society and, in health outcomes too. Can you talk
Mhm.
about because we know that a doctor's a doctor's hope for their patient, is predictive of patient outcomes, sometimes more so than even the patient's
Mm.
level of hope. Can you
Mm.
describe the time when you saw when the patient or when the physician was talking about hopelessness for his
Oh,
patient and just kind of what you saw? I think it's
yeah.
powerful.
Yeah, yeah, thanks. So this was years ago, and I've shared with you that I've treated thousands of patients over the last 17 years, and while all of them are, just near and dear to my heart, there are some who really just, really just have me wrapped around their heart. And people that I will never ever forget. And there was one particular patient. She was in her she lived in Chicago from a huge kind of Irish Catholic family, and had a rare a rare cancer, and was ended up coming to see me for acupuncture because she couldn't tolerate the pain medications that they were giving her. And so she after talking with her healthcare team to say, do you feel like acupuncture would be helpful for me? And they gave their thumbs up for her to be able to proceed. She would come to me, and we established this beautiful relationship, because she would come on a weekly basis for different for different treatments, for acupuncture treatments. And so over the course of a couple of years, I got to know her, and her sisters would come with her sometimes to the treatments, and it was just lovely to have this relationship with her. Well, unfortunately, the treatments, her course of treatments kind of took a turn, and so she was hospitalized, and started to have a variety of infections, and the cancer ended up just ended up kind of consuming her body. And one of the oncologists was doing rounds with some of the residents, and this is according to her family. I wasn't in the room at the time, but the physician and the residents came into her room and basically just said, "This is a hopeless case. There's nothing more that we can do," and basically walked out. And it was at that moment when he took away and shared out loud that there wasn't any more hope. Within days, her health just took a nosedive, and within a very short amount of time, her husband sent me a text. Do you have any time to be able to come to her room today? We're all here. We would love for you to be a part of this. And I have to tell you, Catherine, it's still like they I just was like hand in hand with her family around her bed. And I just said, "Thank you for the honor of allowing me to be part of your care." And she wasn't, I mean, she was breathing and stuff, but she was just not, kind of there.
Mm.
And she ended up passing away the next day. But it just it just made me so mad to hear that that's what that physician said. And it's like, uh, how dare someone say that? I mean, obviously, a provider will never is never going to lie to someone and give them false hope.
Right.
But why say that?
Yeah.
There's no reason to do that.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was awful.
Yeah. And that's the thing. It's not that everything's going to get better, but it's how can we live,
Yes.
like present and as comfortable as possible and like looking towards the next thing and,
Yes.
as peaceful as possible and, serving as kind of a mentor of hope, I think physicians and there isn't training in med school or at all about hope or hope science or the power of hope and how hope
Mm.
impacts patient outcomes. And I just think, That story is such a testament to why it is so important and so critical. And I mean, it's such a gift that you've been able to do that
Mm,
naturally,
thank
with
you.
your patients, because I believe that the power of hope can't be, I mean, the outcomes as a really, I mean, we know in the science, but I mean, you're like showing us,
Mm,
through your practices that
hmm
just so important. And so, yeah, it's great that you've inherently practiced that without,
Yeah.
specific training around it.
Yeah, yeah, thank you. And the thing that I feel like also, I mean, that I wish that providers would do more of with patients. And I'm talking people who aren't kind of trained that are more conventional, right? Western trained,
Right.
is I wish that they would tell patients and help create a game plan, like, okay, so here is the treatment protocol, right, which a patient doesn't have any role in because it is what
Yeah.
it is. Here's your cancer treatment. These are the number of infusions you need to have, or number of radiation treatments. But then which is scary in and of itself, right? There's
Yeah.
the fear, there's the stress, there's the, oh my
Terrifying.
gosh, terrifying.
Yeah.
But conversation after conversation after conversation with patients, I've heard, and patients are like, why didn't my provider tell me that I could potentially experience, XYZ side effect? And not only that, to say, okay, these are the potential side effects that you might experience, but here is a game plan. Here's a road plan for
Yes.
if in fact you do, or
Yeah.
heck, to your point, why don't we do some things to maybe even prevent them from happening?
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
that kind of conversation, I think, would also help with hope because it gives people the ability to have some control,
Yeah. Agency.
a- agency.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. So
So,
important.
oh,
I know.
yes.
So many things that we can do together, though. This is what's,
So many
we want to do
things.
a medical course, so this is amazing. I mean,
Yes.
it's figuring out how to do this. And I've had several people on the podcast who said, have had physicians tell them, like, in so many words, your case is hopeless, or you're not going to recover from this, or that, you're going to have and just, it was their own internal hope compass and their own
Mm,
things they did that navigated their way through it. But it is so important, and especially for patients too, for people using the system, like what we believe and what we learn, and our own, understanding and listening to our own bodies and self and
mm,
ability to heal. It's important to not shut that off, uh,
absolutely.
when working in the space. So,
Yeah.
okay, we have to get into your story.
Oh,
If we can.
sure.
So, all right, the whole goal, we want to normalize the conversation around our moments of hopelessness. Again, when I looked at hopelessness, when I really got down to what is hopelessness and started getting into the literature, understanding it's emotional despair. So again, you feel sad or angry, frustrated, or, and then a sense of
Mhm,
helplessness to do anything about it. I'm
mhm,
like, I think that's why it's impossible to know who is going to die by suicide or be
mm,
violent, or because we all experience these moments all the
mm,
time. And it's really just
mhm,
learning how to manage these moments in healthy ways. And for me to normalize the conversation around it, like I've talk to some people who I don't identify with hopelessness at all. And I'm thinking you're not understanding hopelessness, because when you really look at hopelessness, like if you get cut off in traffic and that's something that bothers you, and that's a moment of hopelessness. Or
mm,
if someone says something to you that's frustrating, you feel that frustration and then that helplessness to kind of do it. That's a moment of hopelessness. So to me,
mm,
normalizing the conversation, and then obviously some moments are much bigger than others. Losing my dad was a very significant moment of hopelessness, and how I managed that
mhm,
moment was not healthy.
mm,
And through learned kind of behaviors and things. But again, we all experience, and then the more challenges we have, the more moments of hopelessness we're going to experience that. I think that's why entrepreneurs, they have so many moments of hopelessness. I think that's why they develop clinical anxiety and depression if they're not really proactive about how they manage
Mm,
them, and that's the key to me. It's like the more moments you have, the more you're going to have to manage them, the more you're going to have to be really proactive about what you're doing. So, anyway, that's,
yes.
my discussion about hopelessness. But can you share with me, a, what challenges for you or what's been challenging for you? And can we have kind
Mm,
of a discussion around that?
yeah. Um, yeah, I thought I've been thinking a lot about this in preparation for our conversation, and there have been, many moments in my life from a very, very young age, and now into adulthood when I experienced, hopelessness or helplessness or despair. But I feel like, and I thank my therapist for being able to like literally talk about this without falling to my knees. But I feel like one of the most profound moments where I experienced despair was coming to terms with the reality that being a mom wasn't going to be part of my story.
Mm.
And it wasn't like this occurred as like a single moment in my life. It was really you know a gradual realization of that of a variety of life circumstances, in terms of resources and timing and kind of relationship dynamics. Kind of all of these things converged, but when the door kind of really shut,
Mm. Yeah.
closed, and you know
Yeah.
the lock was locked and the key was tossed. I mean,
Yeah.
I say that in such a way, but it just brought me to my knees. I mean, and
Yeah.
you talk about sadness, you talk about anger, you talk about grief, you talk about, I mean, even see like a mom or whatever, walking, mom or dad walking down the street with their beautiful baby, or to see a baby on TV. I mean, the tears would just stream down my
Mm.
face. And it caused problems in my relationship. I thank God, like I said, for my therapist and my dearest friends, and journaling, and other things. But I would say that it was awful. um and I'm also, I mean, I know I'm not alone, in my
Yeah. Oh,
experience, that there are
yeah.
people who,
Right here.
eh,
Right
I
here, you know? Yeah, I
I
share in
know.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah.
No, yeah,
So yes, that's a big one for me.
yeah. And it's huge. I mean, when you think
It's
about
huge.
like, you can just crawl into a pit of sadness and, and then the helplessness, and that's the part of it. It's that helplessness because there is absolutely nothing, when it changes. And I know we can talk about adoption and all these things, but when it for having your own changes,
Hmm.
it's like that is you have absolutely zero control. And that is
Hmm.
when, I mean, that is such a clear moment of hopelessness.
Yeah.
And you can see why when you're in that state, it can drive you to do all kinds of things that are just, I mean, you know,
Oh,
horrible. You know,
horrible,
yeah.
horrible. Yeah.
So, yeah. And if you wanted that to be part of I mean, I was sure that I was going to be a mom,
Hmm.
so it's, and that's something that you can't change or come back from, and so it's kind of like, well, gosh, what's the purpose? If like I'm not a mom, then what, and so it's easy to go down that road.
It's so easy to go down that road. And I think the other thing too, Catherine, kind of the work, that I do, and to be in conversation with people who, are experiencing such extreme suffering. And many of our conversations, and I've had, you know, unfortunately, many people who, experienced end of life, and
Yeah.
ended up passing away. but the conversations about, they would so many hours of conversations with people saying, well, thank God for my family, thank God for my
Oh
kids.
no.
And so it really brought up for me, like, well,
Yeah.
my God, when something happens to me, who's going to take care? I mean, so
Yeah.
that also
Yeah.
then was also, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And so that just really increased the amount of suffering that I was experiencing.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I'm sure it's everywhere
Yeah,
around you. Yeah.
everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, and yeah, here's the thing about hope. So, hope isn't about just getting to some happy, hopeful place. It's about really honoring our
Mm,
despair. First of all, the sadness, the anger, the fear, all of those things. And so, when you look at how you're dealing, and it's an ongoing thing, I mean, it's something you kind of have to navigate for life,
mhm,
however. So,
mhm.
how do you, I mean, you mentioned your therapist, but how do you navigate the emotional impact of that or the emotions? What do you do?
Yeah. I mean, similar to you, I really, um, you know, very much kind of fall back into the mindfulness practices that I teach and know how to do. And so, getting into those practices of really naming, the emotion that you're experiencing in the moment and allowing it to be there as painful as it is, and
Mhm.
holding it with a sense of compassion and being kind to yourself during those moments of grief or anger or sadness or, whatever. And doing, breathing practices, but also, um, I would get up in the morning and with my coffee and, instead of being on my phone, I would journal, for an hour and just get things up and out.
Mm,
And, I found that after, I would do that, daily for a while, and that was really helpful. Um, I ended up, taking some art classes and really found that there were other things that brought me joy. And so while that grief was still there, it isn't about shoving it away and making it go away or making yourself feel bad, but it's being proactive, right?
mhm,
And so, whether it was through art or being out in nature or talking with friends. I mean, one of the as part of your shine framework, it's those social connections, right, that are so imperative. And so spending
mm,
time with people that I love and care for and doing things that I enjoy, that where I'm in my flow, whether it's golf or art. Um so yeah, and just kind of eventually, thankfully, I wouldn't say I'm at complete peace because I'm not sure if I'll ever be have
mhm.
complete peace around it, but at least, like I said, I can talk about it, and still with my hand on my heart, and
Yeah.
say, that that it is what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you cry? Are you a good crier?
Oh, I'm a good crier. Well, I cry when people win stuff on TV. So, like in the morning when the Today Show when Hoda does her at 8 o'clock, they do, those beautiful positive stories. Oh my God, it's
Yeah,
so
yeah.
amazing. Yeah.
I know. There's like
Are
happy
you a
crying
crier?
and sad. I mean, yeah, it depends. But
Yeah.
yes, I mean, I didn't used to be. I mean, I guess I
Mm.
always did, but I hated it. Like I was in
Oh.
resistance of my crying. Like I did not think there was anything like I just,
Mm.
but then I came to love like the expression of that, being able to release it. Like it felt like such a
Mm.
good emotional, like, and that because I used to think sadness like could kill me. Like I would be so sad that I would just die,
No.
because
Wow.
that's not what happens. And so crying as a release, and I don't think we honor that enough in society as a
Mm.
healthy expression of joy and sadness, of really both. Um,
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't feel like people understand that emotions are normal.
Yeah.
And, like I see in my mindfulness class, if you look at the word emotion, it's energy, E, in motion.
Right.
Just like clouds in the sky right now, it's, it's kind
Yes.
of cloudy. It is what it is. So the
Yeah.
emotion that you're experiencing, the emotion, it is what it is. There's nothing that
Yeah.
we can do to
Yeah.
make those clouds change.
Yeah.
And so you embrace it and you allow it to be there. And but it'll maybe tonight the clouds will change. Your
I
emotions
know.
change. They get
Yeah.
smaller, they get bigger, you know.
Yeah.
So so yes, it's, but people, I don't feel like there's, again, talking
Yeah.
about like educating people. There's not
Yeah.
enough, there needs to be more education around this.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So then how do you've talked a lot about your stress skills and what about your happiness and what about your
Mm,
happiness habits? I mean, how it's so easy and I, really think that when I went into depressions, it was like I wasn't getting any happy hormones. I was like not managing
mm,
my stress hormones were out of, and I would
mm,
stop doing those things that were healthy for me that produce those, the serotonin and the dopamine and those kinds of things and exercise.
mhm,
It's easy to just be like, I'm not doing any of it. I want to stay in
mm.
bed. Everything, it's
Yeah.
world is falling apart. This is never,
Mhm,
and to kind of get stuck in that. So how have you
mhm.
stopped from doing that? And um, do you stay, like, what do you do?
Yeah, so I um similar to kind of what I shared earlier. I mean, it is really important for me. I feel like I will always be a lifelong learner. I love taking classes. I just completed a year-long functional medicine health coach training program. I love taking art classes. I love taking, music lessons. I love golfing. I belong to like a women's golf league, on Friday afternoons, up in Edgewater. I love being out in nature, and so it's a combination of a lot of different things that bring me joy. And but I also feel like, even going for what might feel like a maybe a boring walk along the 606, on a cold, you know, uh, uh, weekend morning. What I love about moments like that is, and what makes them even more special is when I can be fully present. I'm an amateur photographer at heart, and so I'm always like looking for the real, like maybe it's just the little teardrop of rain, you know what I
Right.
mean? At the end of
Yeah.
like whatever, a branch, I'm like, "Oh,
Uh-huh.
look at that." And, or the butterfly that is just, just landed on a flower. And so I feel like, yeah, I feel like the more that I can be present, I feel like the happier I am in any
Yeah.
situation. So,
Yeah, that's
yeah.
amazing. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I would assume like things like rumination,
Ugh,
and I mean it's hard.
it's so hard.
I know when you start getting into your mind, or is that, I mean, I think
Oh.
with not having kids, are those some of the, we talk about the challenges we have being those negative thought patterns and,
Mm,
or those automatic negative thoughts or, I mean, what are the biggest ones around not, coming to terms with not having kids and how do you, I mean, I'm assuming you manage them with your stress skills and happiness habits. Not maybe
mhm.
not knowingly, but yeah. Speak more to that if you
Yeah.
can.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if like my, rumination anymore is really around not having kids. I mean, sometimes I might dip into that, um but the my reality now of just recently launching my own business. Oh my God. If you ask me like what keeps me up or
I
wakes me up
know.
at night, oh,
Yes.
forget it. Like drop the mic, like you know what I mean? And all
Right.
the, the inner critic and all of the, oh,
Uh,
why did you do this? And this is the biggest mistake. And who are you to think that, you're going to be able to do this and be successful? And oh my
uh,
gosh,
yeah.
that is the rumination right now. And
Yeah.
so it's present, it's real.
Yeah.
And you talk about like needing to be proactive about like hitting that, that
Yes,
negativity
right.
guy right
Yeah,
in the face, like,
yeah.
yeah. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
interesting.
yeah.
Yeah, so
I'm
what are you
all
doing for your rumination during sleep? That's like I think probably people's biggest challenges is they're like, I think I can't turn it off and think about. I'm like, I always say listen to a YouTube meditation or, you got to change the channel. Like I used to do that,
change the channel. That's awesome.
different.
That's,
But what are you learning that's working?
what I feel, uh so I feel like for me, it to the best way of getting out of my head is connecting with my body, kind of similar to what you just said. And so being able to focus on my breathing or doing a body scan, and excuse me, it doesn't mean that my mind then doesn't keep popping up, but
Right.
so the practice is just about
Yeah.
returning back to what you're focusing on again and again and again and again. And it doesn't work all the time, I will
Yeah.
tell you that for sure. And so
Right.
there are times where, like, I'm up at 3 o'clock in the morning,
Yeah.
because I can't sleep and because my mind is just going, going, going. And you know
Right.
what? It's human nature, and I
Yeah.
know it's not healthy, but at least I don't get on my phone and look at social media and then start comparing myself to everybody else. I make coffee, read a book that I'm enjoying, and so I feel like that's a little
Yeah.
bit better than
I mean, I don't know about the
making myself feel
coffee,
worse.
but
No?
maybe
Oh.
decaf. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
No. Yeah, no, I mean, exactly. And having compassion and self-compassion and knowing it's a journey
Oh,
and grace with ourselves. I mean,
yeah.
so important to all of it. And I think you bring up such an important point that like if it's not having a child, then it becomes having not having, your business. And then when it's the business, then it's always there's always
Always.
challenges in life. And that's why we've got to understand these practices and to me, teaching young kids, it's so important so they become
Mm,
part of our nature that we are practice and how to do these things because life
mm.
is not easy, always
No.
and learning how to just get through it in healthier ways. It's just so important, so important. And it's
So,
yeah.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I feel like, and this is just one of the many reasons why I love you and love the work that you're doing, is because you are, you know, working to teach and cultivate hope in all these different with all of these different groups, from kids to healthcare to potentially prisons. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
veterans.
veterans, and
Yeah.
yes, I mean,
Teens.
yes, it's imperative. These
Yeah.
are life skills that people, every single person needs, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
If we can just talk briefly about the inspired actions and just as it relates to when you came to know that you weren't having kids, like,
Hmm.
what did you do to start knowing I gotta address this emotionally and internally or with my third and I gotta like what actions did you
Mm,
take to start on your path of just understanding and acceptance and about
hmm.
all of it.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I knew for sure that I could not navigate the the sadness and the anger without professional help. I tried to do it for a long time by myself, and it just wasn't cutting it. And so thankfully, uh I found a therapist that I just completely connected with, and and cried with, and was just able to be myself. And it was a commitment, and there were times where I was just like, i I don't want to talk about this anymore, but I knew that I just needed to keep talking and keep being real and keep being honest. Um and so that was absolutely an inspired action that was imperative in moving me to the place that I am, right now. Um, and also just allowing myself, like we've kind of talked about, just allowing myself to feel, what I was feeling.
Oh,
Um, yeah, and
yeah.
and journaling,
Yeah. Yeah, that's amazing. One of the biggest mistakes I think we've made in mental health is talking about therapy like treatment for something that's wrong with you. I mean, it's everybody needs help managing
Hmm.
emotions. I mean, emotions are, having someone to talk to about it, to work through, to reflect with, to give, kind of honest, feedback, provide safe space. Like it's so healthy and it's so beautiful. And it doesn't mean that you're sick or there's something wrong with you or, it's a
Mm,
problem in your life. And I think one of the reasons so many people resist therapy is because it's kind of positioned as that. And we don't want to wait until we're in a time of crisis. Like you don't want to wait with your marriage until it's in a crisis point to start getting help for it. I mean, you do so much damage in the process. And I wish we would think of therapy like that as, something
mhm,
that's just healthy for everyone to learn how to navigate life in healthier ways for ourselves.
mm, mhm.
So
Yeah.
it's amazing that you took those steps, you know, to do that.
Well, thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
And and also thankfully, I found someone who I like literally immediately connected with, and that isn't always, and that I feel like
I
is really
know.
important,
Yes, I
is that
know. Yeah.
it's important to find someone that you connect with, and sometimes it might take a little bit of work, but keep the faith that, that right person is out there for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I have
Yeah.
my therapists that I've seen in the past that are kind of like on call if I ever need to go back or I'm having a challenge with something, I know where to go.
Yeah.
I don't want to wait till I'm in time of crisis to think
Mm.
about trying to figure out who I'm going to see that's going to help me through this, navigate through it.
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
and there are a lot of apps now that can help connect you to therapists, and absolutely it can you keep going until you find the right one.
Mhm.
Or, coaches can help too. But we
Yeah.
do know we need at least one person to talk to, kind of a safe, healthy person for us that kind of helps
Mm.
us to move forward. I know that we know that around goals, with goals, you got to write them down and then you have to check in with someone regularly on them,
Mhm.
in a consistent way. If you're up to 95% more likely to achieve them. So
Wow,
I
95.
know, isn't
That's
that crazy?
awesome.
Isn't it? I
Yes.
mean, everyone should be writing down what they want, especially as we head into, getting into the new year. You should be writing down and then, yeah, who is going to hold you accountable to them? And if you're not willing to have someone hold you accountable, you can kind of know that you're not that committed to, achieving that.
Mhm.
There's so many ways to find people now that can help you. There's online groups. There's kind of no excuse for not being able to find someone to support you and whatever it is you want
Mhm.
to kind of move towards. But yeah, writing them down and checking in with someone. So it's a good thing, Angela, for your business goals. You can
Yeah.
write them down, and I would be happy to be your check-in
You
person.
would?
Yes,
Come on, I love
absolutely.
it.
I
This
know.
is on record.
I
This is on record,
know.
Catherine. So
Yes, we'll
I'm
have
gonna
to
take you
do.
up on it.
Okay, good.
The
Yeah,
the one the one
yeah.
thing I'm planning on doing, so in addition to writing down the goals, but I'm also big on like visualizing what I
Yes.
want this next year to look like.
Mm,
And
yeah,
there's a practice that I'll often talk to people about, that's called the life vision statement.
I like it.
And
Yeah.
have you heard of this?
I've done different kind of things. So yes, but go ahead. Do
So
tell.
it's really fun. So it's just a one pager. So you get out a blank piece of paper and a pen and you're a cup of tea or something, whatever, and the very first statement, the very first sentence is a you kind of declare a date in the future. So
Uh-huh.
maybe it's a year from now or 2 years from now, and you say, it is December 17th, 2025. I am, and you begin to talk as if it's already happened.
Awesome. I love that.
Yes. And
Yes.
so you
Very
describe in
cool.
detail in one
Yeah.
page. And what I
Yeah.
often say to people is, okay, so now that you've written this down, and during that process, right,
Yeah.
the little negativity person is going to be like, oh, who
Yes.
do you think that you are to say that you're
Right.
going to accomplish that? So that
Right.
guy's going to pop up. So just forget
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
But once you have that vision statement, put it up somewhere where you can see it. And if you, and talking about accountability, if
Yeah.
you feel like it, what makes this even more powerful is to send it to someone, or maybe a bunch of people in your network, to say,
Yeah.
I don't need you to do anything with this per se, but if you
Yeah.
can just hold this vision for me as a
Uh,
dear friend and loved
yeah.
one, I would be grateful.
Yes.
It's,
I
yeah.
love it.
So
Yeah.
how about
Yeah.
if
Yeah,
I
I
write
love it.
one?
I'll do that. Yeah, I'll do one too. Yeah,
Okay,
absolutely. It's
good.
so
And we'll
fun.
share it.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah, and
good.
I would add to a feeling how not just like but like how you want to feel. Like that is such an important thing. Like our goals are really around how we want to feel, and we get so attached to the outcome of our goal, and yet really it's about creating a feeling of in our life.
Mm,
Like what, I want to feel free and abundant and adventurous, and what are these like kind of feelings associated with achieving these kind of goals that we want. So it's that, but we often leave the feeling part out of it, and so it's really important to, as we know too. And we have a goal setting worksheet. I'll send it to you. It's more like technical, but it's kind of
hmm.
fun it's a different kind of process to go through and think through as it relates to goals. And yeah, so the one of our research, Diane Dreyer, I just interviewed her, and she talks, they did a study around hope, and you visualize something in your future, and then you like feel and get into that, and then you see yourself
Mm,
taking steps, and then you see an obstacle that you encounter,
mm.
and you envision yourself kind of overcoming that obstacle. And then you can kind of see another obstacle and vision. And just the process of envisioning yourself overcoming obstacles helps to build that self-efficacy. And we know this in youth, and make you more
Beautiful.
hopeful. I mean, and more likely to achieve kind of the goals you set for yourself because you have built up some self-confidence. And that's one of the reasons we have people write their shine hope stories, is because they can kind of
Mm,
think through how they've overcome challenges in the past, and you become more likely to then overcome future challenges, which is really cool. um
yeah,
yeah. And
that's super.
yeah, go
Go
ahead.
ahead. No, no, go
um,
ahead.
yeah, the other thing I was going to say is, when I look at my goal setting, kind of how I set goals, I look at SMART goals. So, if
Hmm.
it's the specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time bound, and that can help you kind of really figure out, is this hope like something that really I can actually achieve? Like it's a process to go
Hmm.
through weeding out things that are like win the lottery. When you go through that process, you understand that that's not really you know, yeah, attainable. I think it doesn't mark the attainable thing. But then also stretch goals. So things that really make us stretch and
Hmm.
be way more creative or ambitious than maybe we would if we only had SMART goals. So kind of different.
And I love that you just said with the goals how important it is to identify potential obstacles and then think about ways that you could, right,
Yeah,
navigate those obstacles, because that is, I think, a lot of times, you know why people either don't want to achieve their goals because they're afraid of what could potentially happen. I mean, because our mind is
yeah,
always about, the worries and the what ifs and oh my gosh, and it's paralyzing. But if
yeah,
you can think like, that's so
yeah,
brilliant, and to be able to
yeah,
tap into and remember, as you just mentioned, taking the time to remember that all of us have been through stresses and we've overcome obstacles, and to tap into our strengths and our values
yeah,
to be able to move forward. There's so much power in all of that.
yeah, yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Oh, it's been amazing talking to you. I could talk to you
Oh,
forever.
me too. This has been so fun. Thank you, really and truly. I so
So,
appreciate it.
Oh my gosh, are you kidding me? This is so valuable. I learned so much. Super grateful. And
Oh,
yeah, I'm excited about our process that we're going to do together. So very excited about that. And we
me
can do
too.
another podcast at the end of the year and let
Okay.
everyone know how it went. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, super cool. Is there anything else you want to share? Any final thoughts, words of wisdom? I mean, I know.
Yeah, I just, well, number one, again, thank you so much for this opportunity. I so appreciate, again, the work that you're doing in this world. And, in terms of hope, I mean, it is available, in terms of what I've experienced in my just personal life and what I've seen in my professional life is that hope is available to all of us. And just taking one step, you know, taking one step and having that sense of control really does create can create this beautiful ripple effect in your life. And so, for anybody listening, it doesn't have to be big. It's just one simple thing, and asking for help if you need it. I feel like there's a lot of power in that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, why don't we talk just an ending about the work you're doing now and what you're going to be
Oh,
doing with your new business
oh,
and how
thanks.
people can find out about you. Oh, absolutely. Yes.
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah, so I launched in September a wellness consulting practice called Insight Wellness Solutions. And I essentially work with corporations and community groups to help facilitate science-backed workshops to help people live their best life. So kind of based on mindfulness practices and health coaching practices. And then I also kind of have another area of my business that focuses on in the area of integrative oncology to teach people about the value of integrative oncology and patient-centered care. And so yeah,
That
that's
is,
the work that I'm doing. I'm so excited to take all of these years of experience at Rush and kind of expand the breadth and depth of what I'm doing, and collaborate with incredible people like you, Catherine, to just to make a difference, a significant difference in people's lives.
yeah, that's incredible. And I know workplaces are looking for really innovative ways to bring these kinds of things to their employees. And employees are struggling so much and,
Yeah.
burnout rates are so high. So,
Hmm.
so valuable what you're doing and that you're bringing this into different populations. So important. So how can people learn more about you? How can they find you?
Yeah, so they can reach out to me. My email is drlorbeck at gmail.com. And yeah, the website is insightsolutions.com.
Awesome. We will put a link. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for joining
Thank
us today.
you.
Yeah, it was a pleasure talking to you, as I knew it would be.
Uh,
Super valuable, really insightful, and touched on a topic that's, so, has touched me for sure. And I know many, many women struggle with. So
yeah.
really grateful for that as well. And bringing your medical expertise to the hope world. Really grateful. So, and to all of you listeners, thank you so much for listening in. If you found this useful at all, please do share this with others and check out Dr. Angela's work, Dr. Angela Lorbeck. So please be sure to check it out. We'll put a link in the summary as well. Thank you for listening to the Hope Matrix. And as we say, no matter what life brings, remember to keep shining hope. So, thank you all for listening in to the Hope Matrix podcast. We want to shine a light that hope is teachable, hope is measurable and teachable, and provide you with actionable insights for how you can start activating hope in your life today and provide a framework so you can start talking about hope with other people and practice these skills together because we are better with hope. Please feel free to check out theshinehopecompany.com where we list all of our resources around how to hope. We have a lot of free programs for how to hope, including the 5-day challenge, our hope infographic, with a lot of skills that showcase how to hope and articles of how to incorporate hope into your life. We have the Hope Beat Weekly, which is a weekly newsletter that shares strategies for hope. We have a My Hope Story template, so you can write your own hope story today. Also, My Hope Hero, so we can share what our heroes are doing to activate hope in their lives. And this is especially good with youth, so they can start looking up to people that have overcome similar challenges to them and seeing how these heroes use the Shine Hope framework. We have a Hopeful Minds for Teens program, a Hopeful Minds overview, educator guides. We have a new evidence-based college course so you can activate hope on the college campus. There are programs in the workplace, overview courses, 90-minute courses for learning the what, why, and how to hope. What I want you to know about hope is it's a skill. You've got to practice these skills to become hopeful. It's easy to fall into despair and helplessness when we deal with challenges in life, and it takes intentional work and practice to get to hope. And yet it is always possible. So no matter what life brings, keep shining hope. Thanks so much for listening in. Have an awesome day. And of course, I've got to add that this program is designed to assist you in learning about hope. It should not be used for medical advice, counseling, or other health-related services. I, Fred, the Shine Hope Company, and myself, Kathryn Getsky, do not endorse or provide any medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. I am not a medical doctor. The information provided here should not be used for the diagnosis or treatment of any medical condition and cannot be substituted for the advice of physicians, licensed professionals, or therapists who are familiar with your specific situation. Consult a licensed medical profession or call 911 if you are in need of immediate assistance. And be sure to know the crisis hotline, 988, if you are in need of support. Thanks a bunch for listening. Take good care of yourself and keep shining hope.